Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and Iran is warning that the war is not over between themselves, Israel, and of course the United States, as the plan has been long in the script for now half a century at least. Iran warns Israel could resume its war at any time. Iranian First Vice President Mohammad Reza warned that Tehran must be prepared for confrontation at any time. Of course, this is after the U.S. sent hellfire missiles to Israel to preemptively attack Iran. And of course, then the U.S. itself attacked Iran after Iran struck back Israel in defense. And of course, this led to Trump saying that he ended the war and brought in the ceasefire. Of course, this is leading to Netanyahu calling for Trump to be nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And now Hillary Clinton recently said that she would endorse it if things went a certain way. Now, again, we have to understand that the United States is a nation under blackmail to Israel, among many other countries that are also under blackmail to Israel. And of course, the ceasefire was never meant to last a long time. And we're seeing similar things in Lebanon. U.S. envoy asks Israel to comply with Lebanon ceasefire as drone strikes continue. Look, we have the Israeli government calling for a Nakba, saying that he doesn't care about the death toll in Israel, or in Palestine and in Gaza, doesn't care about the children. And of course, Netanyahu is openly acknowledging the greater Israel project and calling for a third temple. Hey, I thought this was conspiracy theory. Well, we're going to go into that and much, much, much more, including how the U.S. is proving itself right now to be completely on their knees in support of Israel, including this senior Israeli official who has fled the United States and was allowed out of custody after going after children, and of course now is being held extradition free in Israel. There's a lot to go into today. Before we get into it, I urge you to check those links below and get prepared today, because the overall agenda is to force everyone into a social credit system with digital IDs, with food rations, and those foods will not be healthy, my friends. I urge people to go and check out heavensharvest.com so you are prepared, so you are not dependent on them. For long-term storable foods that are non-GMO, there's organic kits, there's heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, books on how to get started. Of course, there's freeze-dried food. Use code WAM, W-A-M, and you'll get 5% off as well as free shipping on these items. I highly recommend you get on this today. Stock up for yourself and your family. And again, this is your responsibility, my friends. This is how you beat that system that is trying to enslave you. And by the way, again, if you have one bucket, get three. I mean, we have to be prepared for the reset and be prepared enough so that we aren't dependent on it later on down the road, and we could fight this battle to create a bright, beautiful new civilization for our children, grandchildren, etc. Also, check out whambeef.com for 10 plus year shelf life, freeze-dried steak, 12 servings per bag. Again, there's freeze-dried chicken and ground beef there as well. Use code WAMBEEF, W-A-M-B-E-E-F, all one word, and you will get 20% off on your order. This is a great deal going forward. Guaranteed no MRNA, no lab-grown meat, all American beef that's 100% natural. Go and check that out at whambeef.com, code WAMBEEF. Now let's get into that. There's a bunch of links in the description, of course, and make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share on social media. So news.antiwar.com says Iran warns Israel could resume its war at any time. Iranian First Vice President Mohammad Reza warned that Tehran must be prepared for confrontation at any time. Iranian First Vice President Mohammad Reza warned on Monday that Israel could resume its war on Iran at any time and that Tehran must be prepared for the possibility, and I quote, "We must be prepared at every moment for confrontation. Right now, we are not even in a ceasefire agreement. We are in a cessation of hostilities," Aref said. This is true. The Iranian official said that Tehran prefers diplomacy, but is unsure what the other side will do, and that if the war does restart, Iran will be prepared to end it. I want to point out that there have been a bunch of mysterious explosions happening in Iran recently since the so-called ceasefire. I have to point out from beginning to end here, 1953 military coup. The United States has been trying to overthrow the Iranian government for a long time. That led to the rise of the Ayatollahs in the Islamic Revolution in 1979 in Iran, which again, these guys were fighting against the CIA, but at the same time, they got their weapons, and a lot of their weapons seem to be American, just like in Iraq with the Ba'athist Party, which the U.S. government later went after, just like Vietnam, which FDR armed and funded through Ho Chi Minh, which then the U.S. fought later on. We could go on and on. ISIS, Al Qaeda, Taliban, Mujahideen, Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas. We could go on and on and on about how the West props up these entities in the first place. Then we see again Israel preemptively attack Iran with hellfire missiles from the United States after Trump signed a $1 trillion budget for defense to mostly annex Palestine and go after Iran, the largest defense budget in history. And this led to then the U.S. attacking Iran after Iran fought back against Israel. And of course, Iran was warned a day ahead of time that the bombs were going to happen. So they moved everything out of the area. So in the 90s, Netanyahu said that Iran was months away from nuclear weapons. And then, of course, Netanyahu also pushed as foreign affairs minister of Israel back in 2002, 2003, the U.S. government to go after Iraq for weapons of mass destruction, which were, of course, a lie. The book Deadly Betrayal by Dennis Fritz goes into that very much so. But then we could also look at the fact that then they said Iran was weeks away from having nuclear weapons earlier this year, and that led to them attacking Iran. And now they're back to saying, hey, they're months away. They're going to perpetuate this forever because it's part of the Greater Israel Project. It's part of the 7-country plan. Just because this series of 14 days or 12 days happened and everyone was freaked out and then it stopped doesn't mean it's over, because this has been planned for decades. And this whole narrative that they're creating right now is not going to change that. So Iran is saying that the country is very close, once again, at any time, to being at war with Israel, and through that, the U.S. as well. And Iran is one of the top allies of Russia and China, by the way, so that branches all of it together into a world war conflict. That needs to be understood. So I just wanted to throw that context into this, because a lot more of this is being admitted to these days. And it says, and I quote, "Of course, our strategy is to resolve issues through negotiations, but we are concerned whether the other side believes in negotiations or not," he said, according to Iran's MEHR news agency. And I quote, "We do not seek war, but our strategy is that if they start a war, its end will be ours." Aref's comments come as Israeli officials have made clear that they do seek another war with Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a video last week where he spoke in English and urged the Iranian people to rise up against the government. And Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has repeatedly threatened Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Since the end of the 12-day U.S.-Israeli war on Iran, there have been no negotiations between Washington and Tehran. Iran has been seeking assurances that it won't be attacked again during the next round of talks. And it also maintains that the U.S. must not demand zero uranium enrichment. For his part, President Trump has threatened to bomb Iran again if it restarts uranium enrichment. He literally said he'll devastate the country and destroy it. And he also claimed that Netanyahu said that the attempt on his life in July 13th of 2024, if you believe that or not, was committed by Iran through proxies. Now, of course, there's no evidence of that, and of course, it's absurd. But of course, that led to, well, that gives justification in the eyes of the Israelis and the Zionists and neocons that are running the Trump administration, much like they have run all the past administrations, Democrat, Republican, whatever. And it also led to Trump saying that he left a note behind for if anything were to happen to him while in office to obliterate Iran, because he knows it'll be Iran. I mean, this preemptiveness, it's so absurd. And like, Iran hasn't attacked a country in 200 plus years, other than this recent defense move. Now, I'm not saying that they're great, but they've been damaged heavily by the West and propped up by the West and then damaged again. And like, we saw these coups happen. I want to also point out that the United States is going after countries for nuclear weapons. I mean, really, they're the only country in the world that's actually dropped nuclear weapons twice, killed insane amounts of people in population centers after allowing Pearl Harbor to happen. And then let's not also forget the fact that they've gone to war with over 200 countries in the last 100 years. So, 100 countries in the last 100 years, sorry, but over time, if you see the amount of times that they went to war with all these countries, it adds up to about 200. So That is absurd. The virtue signaling from them is insane. And Israel has been involved in most of these major wars in the Middle East as part of their move to bring in the Third Temple and the Greater Israel Project. That's their words, not mine. Smotrich has said that. And Netanyahu has said that and is called on Amalek. So this is not some kind of made up conspiracy here. So we see the effects of these ceasefires as U.S. envoy asks Israel to comply with Lebanon ceasefire as drone strikes continue. Netanyahu insists constant bombing is perfectly in line with the ceasefire. I mean, it was the same thing they did in Gaza and through Palestine when they claimed there was a ceasefire between them, and they just kept pummeling places. And then they said the ceasefire was there. Don't worry, we'll drop no more bombs. And then more people went back to their villages and went back to their homes, only to be greeted with more bombs as they attack aid workers. I mean, it's just sickening. Egypt mobilizes 40,000 troops in Sinai amid Gaza displacement fears, source says. Military officials tells MEE Egyptian army is on the highest state of alert we've seen in years as Israel prepares to occupy Gaza. Yes, they are calling for a total annexation, a total complete takeover, which Trump is completely supportive of. Again, that's where the $1 trillion came from. And he says that he wants a resort there with statues made out of gold. I mean, give me a break on the bodies, on the bones of the tens of thousands, nearly 100,000 people, mostly women and children, who've been killed there. I mean, and it causes mass migration, by the way. And Netanyahu has bragged about sending migrants to the West. So they use that as an excuse. Oh, we need to take over this region because all these migrants are bad. You don't want these people. Also, here's a bunch of migrants because we just destroyed this place. Gee, it's funny how that happens. U.S. does not oppose Israeli development of West Bank settlements, Huckabee says. Of course not. He has gone and kissed the walls. He has done a one-time announcement where he criticized Israel for attacking Christians, which he quickly pulled back. And now he and Ted Cruz are on the attack Tucker Carlson train for daring to talk to Christians who lived in the region. Netanyahu's Greater Israel vision sparks widespread Arab condemnation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reignited controversy by publicly endorsing the vision of Greater Israel, which is, by the way, the Nile to the Euphrates. This is a plan that has been in the books for a very long time and actually falls into line with the 7-country plan that five-star General Wesley Clark talked about a long time ago. And again, they called it conspiracy theory for a long time. They also said they never wanted to annex Palestine. And now we see that very thing happen. Again, what we're seeing in Lebanon, what we're seeing in Yemen, what we're seeing with Iran, but not just that, my friends. We also have to remember what they've just done in Syria, which is at war right now after they overthrew the Assad government with Israeli proxies who are pro-Israel and anti-Palestine, yet are Wahhabi Islamist fundamentalists who came into the place. They're formerly al-Nusra Front, they're HTS now. They're funded and armed by Israel, went into Syria and basically by design went and did the exact same thing that a CIA document I've talked about since 2018 on this channel said. And as I talked about in 2018, it was called Bringing Arms to Bear in Syria, where it talks about overthrowing Assad Senior at the time and bring in a militant proxy group for Israel to take over the country via intelligence agencies like Mossad, CIA, MI6, etc., and bringing in these insurgents from the Turkish border, from the Lebanese border, and from the Iraqi border. Exactly what happened, and not just that, the part that really blows us up is that they said, and then they will go after Christians, Sunnis, and Alawites in the region. That's exactly what's happening right now. And now there's a lot of bombing campaigns happening in Damascus, which is just horrifying to watch. And of course, no one's talking about it. We've tried to talk about it as much as humanly possible on this channel while keeping up with the news. So again, that's a huge part of the Greater Israel Project. And of course, they've already done Iraq. And of course, they're already moving a new administrative city out of Cairo to a new Cairo in Egypt, which would allow them to, they're actually rerouting, they want to anyway, reroute the Nile to that area. So they would have all of Cairo as well. And we could also see into Jordan and, of course, into places like, obviously Saudi Arabia, parts of Saudi Arabia. And Israeli ministers just had an emergency meeting with the Saudis today as I report this. So all that seems to be coming together exactly as planned. But oh, this was a conspiracy theory for a long time. This explains what's going on right now with Iran and Lebanon. They will not rest until they have this. This is a major part of what they call prophecy. It's insane. Of course, simultaneously, we have Israel pushing for the building of the third temple, of course Solomon's temple, and of course a big part of that is going after the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which we've seen riots enter in recent days, and the quest for the taking over of Jerusalem. So again, Trump in his first administration made Jerusalem the new capital of Israel. I mean, anyway, we've got this isn't new. People act like this is just this administration. It's not that. He was blackmailed by Epstein back then just as much as he is now. They're presidents. They don't have actual power. They're just people behind a podium. It's crazy that we have to, reiterate that so often. I know most of you watching know, but I mean, my goodness. Middle East Eye says they need a Nakba. Former Israeli intelligence chief calls Gaza death toll necessary. According to audio recording broadcast by Israel's Channel 12, Haran Haliva said mounting death toll will serve as a message for future generations. It's absolutely disgusting. What has led to a lot of this uprising over the years? It was the Nakba, you fool. And also, by the way, you can't claim victim when you are committing all the crimes. We have this movement in the Middle East where they say, oh, well, we need to stop all these Wahhabis, and then it causes mass migration. We need to do something about it. Who planted them there? What did you do in Afghanistan? What did you do in Pakistan? What did you do in Iraq, in Syria? What did you do in Libya? What did you do in these places? Islamized the places, brought in Wahhabis, and took over the region. And you go from Afghanistan, women driving and working jobs and wearing short skirts and wearing bikinis on the beach, to being fully covered, and the Taliban basically owning everyone there. I mean, and speaking of a group that was armed and funded by the West. So it's so frustrating for people to say, well, they're our only ally because look at everyone else in that region. Who brought those people there? And what do you think they'll do to your country eventually after they have cashed out all of your banks and all of your reserves? So foolish for people to not understand what Israel's doing to everyone else, they'll eventually do to you too. Israel's government issues death sentence to remaining captives. Israeli military leadership has acknowledged that full occupation of Gaza will cause a killing of the remaining captives, but Netanyahu's government seems to want them dead. They never cared about the hostages. They always use that as an excuse, but then as we saw when the so-called ceasefire came into place, and a bunch of the hostages were coming back, that was part of the exchange. People were protesting in the streets. Zionists were protesting in the streets saying, no, we need to keep attacking them. We don't care about the hostages. They never cared. They use that as an excuse. October 7th, our hostages, people like Rabbi Shmuley, Alan Dershowitz, these foolish people that have been pushing that narrative for so long. And of course, Ted Cruz, who has just been awful on this, Dan Crenshaw, Lindsey Graham, Mike Huckabee. And of course, the left too, like the Democrats have been owned by Israel just as much as the Republicans for years. It's just that they are creating counter narrative pieces to create psychological manipulation of the public and indoctrinate the public into different groups, different aisles of groupthink. So they are basically signing off on the death of the hostages. And then meanwhile, this is hitting the news a lot, and it's becoming a very typical thing because it's not the first time, because Israel actually hosts one of the highest populations of pedophiles per capita in the world, extradition free from all over the world. If you are Jewish or if you're Israeli, you can just go to Israel and stay there safe from any actual punishment for the horrible things that you could have done in the US. Like this, senior Israeli official flees US following arrest over pedophilia. Tom Alexandrovich was arrested along with 7 other suspects in a sting targeting child sex predators. Now, this absolute piece of garbage was found in Las Vegas, and he is a senior official in the Israeli National Cyber Directorate. And 38 years old, he was arrested, questioned by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department during a conference he had attended on behalf of the Cyber Directorate last week. He was arrested along with 7 other suspects as part of a multi agency operation targeting child sex predators, which led to the arrest of 8 individuals over the past 2 weeks, Las Vegas police said in a statement. The suspects, according to local police, face felony charges of luring a child with a computer for sex acts. And now, again, he was let go, and he's on leave in his job, but he was let go and he fled back to Israel. And again, he will stay there extradition free and safe. Weird how they'll throw someone in prison. Like, they want 8 months in prison for me for allegedly having one single drink and driving in a 1 ouncer in Arizona, where there's a zero tolerance policy, so that you could brush your teeth and get a DUI for something like that. They want double felonies for me on that. And I'm not even American. I'm Canadian. I live in Mexico. I mean, it's crazy. 8 months, they let these pedophiles just go free and live on the run. I mean, it's just so ass backwards. And it drives me crazy watching it. It just absolutely infuriates me. Crimes with victims, don't worry about it. But crimes without victims, where, I mean, you could really argue whether there's even a crime. In those other cases, like, they just let people go. It's horrible. And of course, there's a lot of this happening right now. There's a lot of this happening. And of course, we have this Israeli-born acting U.S. attorney for Nevada declining to prosecute this Israeli arrested in child predator sting, passing case to local DA. Very concerning there as well. Her name is let me see, Sigal Chata. Yeah. And again, we have people getting $28,000 fines for walking outside in Nova Scotia, Canada, like Jeff Everly, which we've talked about, while a man who started 30 fires gets let off on all charges with community service. And then we have these guys going after children and being kept safe by the state, which, again, is very much controlled by Israel through AIPAC, through blackmail, like Epstein's blackmail rings. The Gray Zone says Israel's men inside the CIA betrayed the U.S., new files show. Well, no kidding. The CIA is heavily manipulated by Mossad. Nothing new there. CIA spy master James Angleton shaped the U.S.-Israeli relationship in secrecy. Newly unredacted files shed light on his wanton betrayal of his country to assist Israel's theft of U.S. nuclear material and global spying operations. All very, very, very unsurprising. Meanwhile, New York City's Mayor Adams boasts of endorsement from rabbi accused of child molestation. Horrifying. Horrifying. A lot of this happening right now. And Amnesty says Israel is carrying out a deliberate campaign of starvation in Gaza. We have this horrible, and it is a genocide. Of course it is. I mean, it's going after a specific race and group of people who, by the way, go back to the Bedouins, long before Islam, long before Judaism, like over 10,000 years in that region. And it's funny because if the logic of these Zionists and these neocons, these conservatives that will also say, like, and rightly so, hey, we can't be stealing people's private property and giving it back to Native Americans, even though Native Americans were there first. Which, yeah, that's what's actually happening right now in British Columbia, Canada. I've reported on that recently. Crazy. They're giving people's private property to First Nations people, because 150 years ago they used to be on that land. I mean, again, if you're gonna rightly point out that's not right over 150 years, then thousands and thousands of years you're still gonna support, because Israelis and Jewish people were in that territory, that everyone else needs to be knocked out and given, and all the property has to be given to those people after decades and decades and generations of families, and again, thousands of years. I mean, the absurdity. Why always them? Why always them? There's a reason for that. It's always them because they have developed an intelligence community that's been able to first blackmail utilizing people like Epstein, getting people on camera doing horrible things, and 2, AIPAC. And of course, 3, the victimhood, which they will perpetuate forever, no matter how many other things that Zionist Israelis do. It's always going to be victimhood. We're always victims. We're always victims. Oy vey. I'm so sick of this narrative, because the reality is Israelis are not victims. You cannot call yourself a victim. Well, you can't be punching someone in the face, holding their hair, punching them in the face, and then they try to push back. And, hey, he hit me. He pushed me back. He's attacking us. We were promised our ability to punch him in the face 6,000 years ago. Like, it's just so demonic, really. And so this will continue to happen, and I believe that these wars were perpetuated, and they were written and scripted a long time ago, including this Russia-Ukraine stuff, which I'm going to get into more in another video because I'm waiting for more information. I know what's going to happen long term, and I've already talked about that in a previous video a few days ago, but I want to wait to see more before I make a more of a long form video like this. So stay tuned for that, I guess. But of course, what we're seeing in Israel, what we're dealing with in Israel, is something that I believe we're going to see perpetuated into a full-scale conflict that can bring in as many as 20 or 30 countries, including the European Union, Iran, which is one of the top allies of Russia and China. Of course, China and Taiwan are going to war, India and Pakistan, Russia, Ukraine. The United States is talking about going to war with Mexico, sending military inside the country, which would be very dangerous to your borders, by the way, and mass migration, and of course just be horrible to the largely conservative traditional families in Mexico who are under attack in the face of this, or in danger at least in the face of this. Again, the U.S. has, and the CIA has been propping up the cartels, so stop acting like it's Mexico's fault. There's people that are coming over the border. That's a manufactured crisis by the U.S., by the U.S. government, by the CIA, by Mossad, and all the others, same as ISIS, Taliban, Mujahideen, Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood, etc. It's all Hamas. It's all propped up by the same entities, fabricated, manipulated, manufactured to bring order out of chaos. And then, of course, in the emergency orders that are to be in the face of these emergencies that are, again, manufactured, comes the technocracy, the CBDCs, the digital ID, the total transhumanism and technocracy, and the control over everyone, and utilizing food rations that after the supply chain collapses in war, which it will, as they're also going after it from the climate angle and the weather angle and the regulatory angle. And then, of course, grid rations, internet rations for your national security. And of course, the bringing in of 15-minute cities and all this kind of stuff. We need to stand up against this, and we need to start by being an individual and not depending on the state that created the problem in the first place to solve it. And stop having this hopium that, oh, Trump is going to save the world. Trump is just another guy behind a podium. No matter how, it seems like he is speaking out and being more honest than other presidents, sure, fine. I'll even go with that narrative as far as in theory. In reality, they don't have power. If he was truly going to bring down the system, he'd be dead. And people say, well, they shot at him. If we are still believing that after all the videos we saw of the Secret Service arranging photographers and the blood splatter going up instead of down, it makes no sense. Or down instead of up, I should say, where it should have gone through his hair. Again, we could go on and on about that. And the point is, it's used as a narrative to create a narrative in order to create these divisions on one side or the other, where both sides are wrong, and then they both end up clashing, and people will just vote for the next guy to enslave them while sitting on their hands, while claiming anyone that doesn't vote is sitting on their hands. Meanwhile, they're literally the ones sitting on their hands waiting for someone that they put a ticket into a box for to do everything for them, instead of actually acting as an individual independently, withdrawn from the system. The basis of freedom is individualism and getting prepared. So that's my job, to let everyone know about the ways that they could get prepared, because it's incredibly important to me. I make no money off this. Like, really, I've made like nothing the last few months, and it's not about that. I've been offered $1 million contracts, and I've said no, because I don't want to lie to people for a living. I want you guys to have real world solutions. So I urge people again to check out heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WAM, WAM, and you will get 5% off as well as free shipping on these items, as well as freeze-dried food. There's a bunch of different stuff. Stock up today. Save yourself, save your family. Those are in the description, my friends. Also, whambeef.com for 10 plus year shelf life, freeze-dried steak, 12 servings per bag. Of course, there's freeze-dried chicken and ground beef as well. And of course, you could get 20% off when you use code WHAMBEEF, WAMBEEF, all one word. I highly recommend people go and check that out in the description below. Whambeef.com, code WHAMBEEF. Of course, we have a lot of different options. Many of them we can't mention if we post this video on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe on Rumble and BitChute. But we have our link for Wave Watch 2.0, which if you use code WHAM, W-A-M, you will get $100 off on your order. This is like having a Rife machine on your wrist. It's great for improving sleep, reducing stress, fighting pain, boosting energy, and helping with immune function. Highly recommend people get this. Again, does this solve the issue of the wars? No, but I do think we're under attack in a big way when it comes to frequency, and I think it's a good way to push back a little bit. And of course, I'm going to also mention firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ where you can buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium. It has to be that exact link. You can hold it in your hand, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system, and schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez and a complimentary investors package. When you sign up, let him know in the comments of the form that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WHAM, W-A-M. We have lots of videos with Mark Gonzalez that I urge people to go and check out on our channel. So check that out at Rumble and BitChute. One of our videos, U.S. Debt Crisis Turns Desperate. Very important one, record debt and inflation, where we go into the real inflation rates. I urge people to check that out. Again, firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. And of course, as we close this off, check out vni.life/wham, W-A-M, and use code WHAM15 to save 15% on a bunch of super supplements, including Protovite, which again is 100 plus vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients, helps with cellular health, and of course, longevity and immune health. Look at the toxins in the blood before, and look at the results 5 minutes after taking it. Better circulation, restored negative charge. Again, red blood cells freely flowing, and of course, white blood cells quadruple the size. This is amazing. It usually takes months to do this. So I urge people to go and check out vni.life/wham and use that code WHAM15. Very important. Again, I want to thank everyone who helped support us on gogetfunding.com. We could not have survived without you, my friends. And our video the other day, I hate asking for help, but we have gone totally bankrupt. We still have to raise about $8,000 out of the $10,000, but you guys have pushed back in a way that has allowed us to stay awake and alive a bit longer in the face of being totally viciously attacked on a regular basis. I just want to thank all of you. You guys are absolutely amazing, and we could not survive without you. So we have gogetfunding.com, we have Patreon, we have Subscribestar. If you donate on Patreon or Subscribestar, $4.99 a month or more, you will get exclusive content, including these early access videos, which I highly recommend people go and check out. Again, that's $4.99 a month or more. And we're also on X at World Alt Media, where you could subscribe on there for $5 a month, get the same content. Of course, we have a PayPal address, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. We have a Bitcoin address that you can scan on the screen here, or donate through the link, or not the link, rather the text version of the address in the description. We also have a Cointree link with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in, if you please, including privacy coins. And of course, we have a Teespring store with a bunch of merchandise, which helps us and supports us very much as well. So we appreciate it, everyone. As always, find us on Telegram, Band.video, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media, though I'm pretty sure Band.videos is going down any day now. So if you're watching on there, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell on Rumble or BitChute. Of course, we're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson. We're on the Bad Guys TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media. We're on Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms except for Spotify, where we are, of course, banned. Hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already. And as always, my friends, live freely, live by example. That's what it's all about. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.